Shalom, giving all praises to my Heavenly Father. His name is Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah by Hashem Radash. Double honors to the apostles and elders that rule well, and peace and many salutations to your Archangel children and its truth. I've been thinking about this particular sit down for about a week or so, especially after the sighting that was seen. I forget where, excuse me, but there was a huge sighting that was on a local news station. I want to say it was in uh, Las Vegas. I could be wrong. I forget exactly where it's at. So excuse me. But it was going into how there was a UFO sighting, and there were tall men that came out of the UFO that looked like aliens. Um, and I actually watched a documentary months ago about how the government uses UFO sightings to cover up new new weaponry that they're coming out with, and this made me think of this particular scenario. Now, what's interesting in that documentary that I watched, it was going into how uh, there are, in fact, with them covering up certain, you know, uh, new weaponry. There's actual cases to where people are actually finding UFOs. Okay, so we know why, because the Most High is sending these UFOs. Well, these chariots, we know them as chariots, to uh, disrupt the plans or spoil the plans of Esau Edom. So I wanted to come out with this particular sit down and read this article that was in the New York Times, just to shed light to why we've been seeing such an influx of UFO sightings. Now there are cases to where there are in fact true UFO sightings. Then there's cases to where Esau Edom is covering up the new weaponry that they're coming out with and blaming it on the Most High and His chariot, essentially. So we gotta always report within balance, because that's a part of being a watchman. Is reporting correct understanding. Okay, and this is a part of it. Giving understanding of what the true UFOs are, which are the chariots of Yahweh by Shemel Shai, and also what aren't, which again, these are cover-ups that we see from various governments, to, well, in particular the government of Babylon the Great, to mask the weaponry that's coming out. Now, it's not coincidence that we've seen all this influx of UFO sightings, so-called UFO sightings, and there's talk of war that's commencing. Okay, and the reason why is, again, the latter, what I just explained. So now, according to the New York Times, CIA admits government lied about UFO sightings. In the darkest day of the Cold War, the military lied. And it states, in the darkest day of the Cold War, the military lied to the American public about the true nature of many unidentified flying objects in an effort to hide its growing fleets of spy planes. A Central Intelligence Agency study says the deception was made in the 1950s and 1960s amid a wave of UFO sightings that alarmed the public and parts of official Washington. You see that? So there's all these sightings and things of nature, and people is like, "Oh my God, these are UFOs. What's going on?" Well, really, what's going on is, a lot of times, is, again, they're coming out with new weaponry, new technology, and they want to cover up and blame it on the Most High and His chariots. Okay, All right. The deception, excuse me, just read that. The CIA study says the Air Force knew that most reports by citizens and aviation experts were based on fleeting glimpses of U-2 and SR-71 spy planes, which fly extremely high. Those planes were developed in the 1950s and 60s to photograph enemy targets from secret bases, mainly in California and Nevada. That's why area what's that area 51 is in Nevada. Okay, and the reason why is because you have a base that explores new war or military technology. Okay, the aircraft repeatedly flew across the country and eventually overseas to bases in countries that include Britain, West Germany, and Taiwan. While commercial airliners, it he uh, while commercial airliners, uh, it he 1950s flew at altitude of up to 30,000 feet. The U-2 soared to more than 60,000 feet, and the SR-71 to more than 80,000 feet, or 15 miles near the edge of space. The planes carried powerful cameras to spy on foreign military installations and sensitive electronic gear to capture radio and radar transmission. The spacecraft was developed by the intelligence agency and often flown by the Air Force. Rather than acknowledging the existence of the top secret flights or saying nothing about them publicly, the Air Force decided to put out false cover stories, the CIA study says. For instance, unusual observations that were actually spy flights were attributed to aerostrophic phenomena like ice crystals and temperature inversions. Over half of all UFO reports from the late 1950s through the 1960s were accounted for by man reconciliation. Uh, what's that? Let me look this word up because I ain't even supposed to play with you. You ain't supposed to be weird like that. Let's look it up because I'm not sure what it means. Reconnaissance, military observation or a region to locate an enemy or a certain strategic feature. Reconnaissance. Okay. Over half of all UFO reports from the late 1950s through the 1960s were accounted for by manned reconnaissance flights. Over the United States, the CIA study says this led the Air Force to make misleading and deceptive statements to the public in order to allay public fears and to protect an extraordinarily sensitive national security project. And this is what we see going on now. Okay? They're lying to the public about a lot of these sightings. Why is that? Because there's a lot of technology that's being issued out, especially at the break of war. A lot of sophisticated spy technology like we've seen in the 1950s. A lot of different weaponry is being issued out so they could attack, the enemy from satellite and things of that nature. A lot of satellites being propped, so they could spy on, their various enemies. So there's a lot of things that's going on And so they're using fear as a way to cover up, uh, people being inquisitive about what the government is doing, man. Okay. Now, within them line, if people are digging deep and trying to figure out what's going on, they are actually finding what they will call a UFO to them. Now we know them to be the chariots of Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. Okay? So there is, of course, the truth, the balance of that. But again, us as reporters or watchmen of Yahweh by Shem Yahushua, we have to give the unadulterated truth. Although we want, to believe, all these sightings and the various news coverage of, UFOs or chariots, this is the way that Esau Edom lies, man. Okay, let me grab a scripture for you all. Now, this is Matthew 24 and 23. Now, what I've been talking about, man, I could really read up, but I want to get straight to the point for time's sake. I want to make this as concise as possible. It says Matthew 24 and 24, for there shall arise false Mashiachs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. We're coming in those times where deception is about to be at an all-time high, y'all. With this AI technology, man, they're able to produce a lot of things that seemingly looks miraculous, seemingly look out of this world. They're going to use this technology, and they're using this technology to deceive the masses, especially when it comes to these UFO sightings. I believe Barack Obama said that in the near future, he could see people worshiping as one government, as one people, like UFOs. Lucy paraphrasing, and the reason why is because that's what they're setting up. They're gearing people towards worshiping, um, that that uh that ideology of science and things of that nature. And he's going to use his technology as a way to deceive many. This is a part of this man's blessing. We've seen this in Daniel, the 7th chapter. That fourth beast is going to be speaking great things, and we are in the midst of that fourth beast. America is a part of the fourth beast, okay? And he's speaking very many, many great things against Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. Okay? Let's see if I can get that for you guys. I know it's in this chapter. Just gotta find it. Now, this is Daniel 7 and 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked out by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of men, and a mouth speaking great things. Now, this horn is going into America. There was 3 horns before it. Those 3 horns was the Spanish, the French, and then the British. And then that little horn came out of those 3 horns. Okay, but it's further the strength of that fourth beast, which we know to be Rome. America is an extension of Rome and its power, its infrastructure, its ideologies. Okay, and it speaks against the Yahweh Shem Yahushua with its technology, with its new speech and things of that nature. Okay, and with its new speech, its arrogant words, he pushes people away from our people away from the understanding of these scriptures. Okay, I'm gonna read this in the NLT for you guys. Now, this is Daniel 7 and 8. As I was looking at the horns, suddenly another small horn appeared among them. 3 of the first horns were torn out by the root to make room for it. This little horn had eyes like humanized in a mouth that was boasting arrogantly. This is Babylon the Great, okay? Speaking as the first beast, which is that first beast was Rome, okay? And we see an example of this with how he's lying essentially against the heavens, against the Most High's chariots with uh, these false UFO sightings. Okay, all right. So let's go back to the script to the article. Okay, the study CIA role in the study of UFOs, 1947 to 1990, written was written by Gerald K. Hines and appears in Studies of Intelligence, a secret Central Intelligence Agency journal. 5 years ago, the agency began releasing unclassified versions of the journal yearly. The 1997 edition, with the study on unidentified objects, is at, there you go, you can look it up for yourself. Mr. Haynes is an historian at the National Reconnaissance Office, uh, the intelligence agency that builds and runs the nation spy satellites. The admission of federal deception on the issue appears to be, at first, experts said in interviews. Uh, it's very significant, said uh, Richard Hall, chairman of the Fund for UFO Research, a group in Washington. Certainly, they've lied about not having any interest in the subject, but I don't know of any other deception like this. Johnny Pike, head of space policy of the Federation of American Scientists, also based in Washington, said the admission raised questions about other federal cover-ups. The flying saucer community is definitely onto something. In charge that the military is hiding something. Mr. Pike said, you see that? So the flying saucer community, people that something's out there. Well, they're all onto something. They're onto something because they know that the government is hiding something, man, and they've been hiding a lot of technology. Okay. There are two schools of thought on the nature of such a cover-up. One, from Mr. Pike and other aerospace experts, holds that many sightings over the decade involved secret federal projects featuring advanced aircraft and reconnaissance missions. The new mission strengthened that view. The other school holds that the government has come into possession of extraterrestrial craft and beings and is hiding them from the public, partly to avoid causing panic. That view was celebrated last month on the 50th anniversary of an incident in Roswell, New Mexico, in which conspiracy theorists say a saucer crashed into Earth and was seized by the government. That's bullshit. A chariot for the Most High is not going to crash on the Earth, man. Come on, man. Come on now. This come on. So this is Esau Edom covering up his lies, man. That's all that is, bro. People have been celebrating 50 years of this BS. Okay, excuse my language. You know, the deception about the spy flights were issued in some of the 10 days of the Cold War. Tensets days of the Cold War. The Soviet Union exploded its first its first hydrogen bomb in 1955, the year that the U-2 flew for the first time. And you got the rock band, for those who are music enthusiasts, called the U-2. They had recently came out with a commercial about the tour that they're about to go on, and it was a UFO sighting. They were playing on that the U-2, and saying cover ups and conspiracy theories and things of that nature. Okay. In 1960, a U-2 was shot down over the Soviet Union, leading to the cancellation of an East-West peace conference. In 1962, a U-2 spotted a buildup of Soviet nuclear arm in Cuba, precipitating the diplomatic crisis regarded by some experts as the closest to superpowers coming to nuclear war. So, these various spy campaigns have nearly caused World War III. Okay. And this could be a catalyst to that. All right. As technology gets even more sophisticated, to make the spy planes harder to see and less likely to prompt UFO reports, they were eventually painted black. The CIA studies said U-2 initially had silver bodies and reflected the rays from the sun, especially at sunrise and sunset. The report added that they often appeared as fiery objects to observers below, but the SR-17, which first flew in 1964, was apparently painted black from the start. Its nickname was the Black Bird. Okay, so there you have it. There's a lot of cover-ups, and this is in the 1950s and 60s. You can only imagine the technology that they're coming out with now. But again, in that documentary, it did state that with them trying to cover up a lot of things, you had people that were actually a part of the CIA, that were actually positives that nature, that actually saw sightings that they could not identify, which we know to be chariots of Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. Yet and still, there is deception that Esau even uses as a tool to cover up his new technology that he's coming out with. Okay, all right. So I wanted to just do a sit down on this particular matter, just to give understanding, give light to what we've been seeing in the last couple of years, and really in the last year or two, of the expansion of all the reporting of UFO sightings. Okay, the government is covering up new technology. So that being said, I want to give all praise to my Heavenly Father's name is Yahweh by Shem Yahushua, by Shem Kakadash, double honor to the apostle, elders everywhere, and peace and many say, taste the Yakim, told in truth. Shalom.